actually even beyond, before hiring, when we started going to the recruitment, we actually have to prepare the candidates a little bit of what to expect, because they've probably never done a technical interview, let alone in English, let alone over Zoom or something. They just go in as very transparent way, as if they were a new employee for the company, depending on the culture of the customer. Because and luckily, a lot of our customers like to treat our engineers just as if they were their engineers.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here with Daniel Castaneda from Kwan Technologies. How you doing, Daniel?
Hi, Andy. How are you? I'm pretty good here.
I'm doing great. And as a top ninja, I see in the background there, I love that you're a top ninja. And all our fans here at Business Ninjas are interested in how companies are growing. So tell me a little bit about Kwan Technologies. What do you do over there?
Well, we are in the business of software. We are a company that's dedicated to providing software development teams to companies in the US mainly, or North America. We have a couple of business lines. One of them is on the staffing model, where we just provide the resources to work for these companies. And the other one is on the project development, where we do custom software development projects end to end and deliver them working to the customers.
Wonderful. Tell me a little bit about how the staff augmentation side of that works. That sounds really interesting.
Yes, well, I mean, there's a huge demand for software talent nowadays, and it's just going to keep growing, right? So to cope with that, and you add also the post-pandemic scene, where all the companies now are pretty much hiring the talent wherever they can find it. We have operations both in US and Mexico. So, but our core is in Mexico. Our customers are in US and Canada. So we hired engineers mainly here in Mexico or Latin America. We do the management, we do the setting of their computer equipment, everything they need to be able to be productive. Of course, we do all the recruitment, the technical filtering, and all that part. We have expertise on that for many years, and we're able to find that talent and provide it as per the requirements of our customers, depending on the technologies expertise they're looking for, right? So we recruit, we hire, and we set them to work.
And so I know this process very well, having done it with my old company, Helpware, in the customer support arena. Doing it for developers is a similar kind of thing, but different in that the highly technical staff members. Tell me a little bit about the kinds of projects that you work on and that you like to work on. What's an ideal customer profile for you?
Yes, well, we've been focused mainly on the software industry. That is, our customers so far have been mainly companies whose product or service is software itself. So these companies develop, software products that they put out in the market. It could be enterprise software, it could be security software, it could be health software. In some cases, we've had so, for example, a company that we work for that had vehicle monitoring, software. There's different softwares of different sorts. Each customer has a particular software or set of softwares that they sell, and they basically require additional software development resources. So we tailor this recruiting for the particular customer, right?
And so, when a client comes to you, tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that they have. Is it they're having problems finding staff members that can help them build their team, or is it expertise that you bring to the table and process? What challenges do they have when they come to you, and how do you help them solve those challenges?
Well, there are a number of challenges. On the US, there's a big demand for software development talent. And there are also some very big companies with lots of budget that we all kind of know about them. I'm not going to name them here, but so they're paying huge salaries. So a lot of times the smaller companies can't compete, right? And so all the top talent within US is a lot of time gathered by some of these big companies, and also there's so much demand for the talents that there are more jobs out there, specialized jobs, than people that can fill the requirements. So and also there's also a cost advantage by having it on Mexico, Latin America, right? Without having the hassles of a time zone difference as you compare to hire in India or China. But the best approach is always a mixed approach where you have a a leadership team based, an architect team based in US of experts, and then you have some additional resources, elsewhere or distributed around the globe. That way you can gather the best talent from each area, and you're able to supply that demand basically, right? Because it just can't be covered just by US people. It's just not enough.
Yeah, and I know that having a nearshoring solution is obviously preferred because you're in similar time zones and you can overlap your work times similarly. Tell me a little bit about the origin story of the company. People love to hear origin stories and how a company went from an idea from 0 to 1, right? And to get started. And now you've grown the business dramatically. Tell me a little bit about the origin story and the growth of the company.
Yes. So basically, I worked on a visa in the US for a number of years. I was in different companies, all software companies. I was in a big company in Florida, and I was in IBM in Florida through a staffing firm. I was in Siemens Medical as well in Pennsylvania. I was a Progress Software in Massachusetts. And then I was in a TIPCO Software in the Bay Area. So I went through different areas of the US, different tech hubs, and always working in software industry, in high-end development teams, doing all the good stuff, the automated testing, the CI/CD, all the proper software engineering processes, agile processes. And so I basically learned a way to do this, and I had to myself work at the time with teams elsewhere. So I've been to that side, I've been to the hiring side. I understand the requirements very well. I understand the kind of quality that these companies are looking for, the kind of processes they have, the kind of tools they use, the things like the kind of attention to detail that they require from their engineers, the work culture, which could be very different in other countries. So I've been able to adapt to that culture for those people that are, even if they're in Mexico or Latin America, because I've been to the other side. So that gives me a big advantage. And I moved back to Mexico after working for a number of years, for like 7 years in US and then 3 remote. And we started this company. It was initially because my employer at the time wanted to start operations for engineering in Mexico. So they, I already had the company set up for when I moved back remotely. That's how I was working from them through my own company. And then that I changed from being an individual contributor to providing teams for this company. And from there, it kind of started growing with new customers, and it grew to what it is today. We're currently about 75 employees, and we're looking to double over the next couple of years.
Wonderful. And for the work that you do with your clients, tell me a little bit about the kinds of staff members that you bring to your clients.
Well, we really look for what our customers ask us for, but if I had to say specific things today, most of the customers that we have are asking for web-based development for web-based software. We're using modern technologies such as React, Angular on the front end. And on the back end, we're seeing a lot of Node.js with different Node frameworks. We're seeing some Java still, and we got one customer on C#, but it's been mainly Node. Some Python all of a sudden that has come across some requirement. And there's been a lot of growth on the technical support side of things as well. We've been asked to open that branch, has been growing. And then we have also we have gotten a lot of requests for DevOps personnel. Those are scarce and very required with the cloud, the cloud work nowadays. Those are hard to get, not because they're so hard to get, it's just that everybody wants them. So it's but when we're able to find them, and I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's so interesting at this point in time in the economy is that, you hear about all these massive layoffs from companies like Amazon or Twitter, or people quitting Twitter or what have you. A lot of layoffs happening in companies, but those companies can't stop growing. And what I've seen in a market like this is that outsourcing companies are the ones who benefit from this, because companies want to take these full-time employees off of their payroll, but they still need to get the work done. Tell me a little bit about your point of view on that and how that might be in your favor for Kwan Technologies.
It's a mix. I mean, there are good and bad things about that. Like, for example, if you have some customers, a staffing firm that placed already in a customer, and they're going to do some cuts, a lot of times those outsourced positions are the first to go. So that's the bad side of things. But the good side of things, as you say, is that yes, they a lot of these companies, they cut off, this formal jobs, but they still need the work done, right? So one way that they kind of work around that is to have temporary contractors, and that's where we come in. Although our engagements are usually not that temporarily. We don't actually like very temporary engagements a lot. We do them on a minimum of 6 months, but our engagements are usually a bit longer. But a lot of times in these companies, they come from a different budget area, right? And so I'm not a financial guy, but I understand how that works, in the sense that a lot of times the contractors don't count into budget from some perspectives, and that's why a lot of times these companies, they still need to work done, so they go for contractors. And yes, that when that happens, it certainly benefits us.
Wonderful. And where in Mexico are you located?
In Merida, Yucatan. So Merida is in the Yucatan Peninsula, opposite to Florida. It's about a bit over 1 million people. It's considered the safest urban city in Mexico. It's a good place. It's an international airport. So we got flights to Florida, Houston, Mexico City. It's a good place to live, to be honest. So we like it.
Beautiful. Yeah. And tell me a little bit about what makes your brand stand out from your competition.
Well, I think what outside of my beautiful logo, I think that it's a lot that I myself have been to that other side. I understand the requirements, and also the fact that we've been focusing more on the software industry. Software industry has some particular characteristics that are different from other industries. In general, the technical level required by the engineers is higher, and also they're always using last generation tools and latest best practices, and also the projects are very different, because they're usually providing the software you're writing is an actual product, and because of that, it always needs to be on the latest and greatest, right? If you're going to buy a car, for example, you don't want to buy a car with technology from 10 years ago, right? Whereas when you are working for software in a non-software industry, I don't know, a supermarket or a bank or something, the software is a vehicle for the operations, but it's not the product. So the most important in other industries is for things to keep working. So if you can a change in a particular system, it's okay, just do the change, but don't change the technology, don't upgrade the database, don't upgrade the library, nothing. Just make sure it keeps working and it makes sense, right? Sometimes people that go into these jobs, these technology jobs, they kind of get stuck in older technologies, maintaining the systems. Whereas in the software industry, it's quite the opposite. Okay, we need to launch the next version of this software. Let's go to the latest version of each of the libraries. Let's see what we can do with this new language, with this new technology, right? Because it's a product, it has to be on the latest, otherwise it won't sell, it won't beat the competition, right? And that it's a great thing for the engineers that work in these companies, because it forces them to keep updating themselves, right? And it's one of the big attractives that we have even at the recruiting level.
That makes a lot of sense. And it seems like there's probably a lot of infrastructure and training and support that you provide to your team members as well that, helps they feel supported and the client feels supported in that process along the way. Tell me a little bit about, just to change gears here, if you were to be celebrating something in a year from now, what would you like to be celebrating?
I'd like to be celebrating at least the growth of over 30%, right?
Yeah.
That'll be a good thing.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's exciting. It seems like there's a huge amount of demand for software developers. Having built a presence myself in Mexico, I love the staff and the energy that team members bring there locally. So I know firsthand that the team that you can build in Mexico is first rate, and the work ethic is outstanding. Tell me a little bit about how you integrate your team members with your clients when you're working with them, so that there's continuity on a day-to-day basis.
Well, we have a regular internal onboarding process where and this is what important. This is where we bring the work culture match, right? So we recruit an engineer from some other regional, national, local company, and they're with a mindset of how things are done here for companies in Mexico. And there's a lot of things from things as to how to write an email, for example. It's very different, right? Here, US people is like 2 or 3 lines, get to the point. In Mexico, people write 20-line emails just to say one thing, right? And they copy 30 people. It's a different culture thing, right? But so in the onboarding, we cover topics like this. We cover topics like, for example, ask. If you don't know something, ask. Don't get stuck on something just because you don't want to ask, right? Things like that cultural mismatch. Actually, even before hiring, when we started going to the recruitment, we actually have to prepare the candidates a little bit of what to expect, because they've probably never done a technical interview, let alone in English, let alone over Zoom or something, right? So there is a match done even before recruiting, a match done during onboarding. So and then also obviously there's an introduction to the engineers on the customer that they're going to be working with. A lot of times that happens during recruitment, because we do internal filtering, but then the customer also does some interviewing if they want, which is most of the time. And so a lot of times they already met 1 or 2 of the guys they're working with. But other than that, they just go in as very transparent way, as if they were a new employee for the company, except that they're contractors through Kwan. But it's a pretty transparent thing, right? So at that point, it also varies from depending on the culture of the customer, because and luckily a lot of our customers like to treat our engineers just as if they were their engineers. A lot of times they even give them the same kind of bonuses and things like that. I wouldn't say all the customers, but most of them, and that's a great thing, right? Because that's the way to make the engineer really feel like he belongs, and then that has an impact on performance.
I love that, and I love the transparency and for the client to be able to select their own candidate through the process, and how you can filter the right candidates up to them so they can just get to market quickly. That's wonderful. Daniel, tell people who are listening here how they can find you.
So you can go to my website, which is www.kwantec.com, no H, just Kwantec without an H, .com. That's where we are. They can find me at daniel@kwantec.com, again, no H. So it's just www.kwantec.com. So that's it's me, and it's easy.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Daniel, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thanks so much. Daniel Castaneda from Kwantec. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. It's been a pleasure.